On Tuesday the 19th of May 2020, our dear brother and colleague Rev Wesley Graham passed into the presence of his Lord and Saviour. After some 7 years of faithful service in the Free Presbyterian Church in Bristol, Wesley started his full-time work in Nepal under the Mission Board in 2010. As a board, we want to record our thankfulness to God for all that Wesley was enabled to see and accomplish in the land of Nepal. We just stand back in amazement and say that it is the Lord's doing and marvellous in our eyes. Wesley's son Timothy, while he was in Kathmandu for musical training, had come into contact with Paul Thapa, who was leading a small church group called the Nepal Mission to the Unreached. Timothy encouraged his father to visit and witness the work of God at that time in Nepal. In the providence of God, that first visit was in March 2006, when Wesley went out to teach at the Pastors and Leaders Conference and familiarise himself with the work. Mr. George McConnell, who was the Presbytery missionary officer at that time, relates that Wesley was so excited with what he saw and its potential that he phoned him from the flight stopover in the Middle East and told him, "George, you'll have to come out and visit Nepal with me." Wesley's first visit with George was in November 2006. There he was burdened for the vast spiritual needs of that land. God put a burden in his heart for the Nepalese people. Wesley helped to coordinate various Bible conferences for the church leaders in the subsequent years, a conference that has been held every year since 2006, and numbers have dramatically grown from 45 to over 300 in 2019. Another purpose of that visit in 2006 was to support the development and expansion of the Let the Bible Speak sponsored radio broadcasts in the Nepalese language. This was the beginning of a vast expansion of the radio work, which, under God, has been so blessed to the salvation of many souls and the commencement of local churches. As the work grew and more churches were formed, Wesley quickly saw the need for a Bible college in which to train men for the ministry of the gospel. This was built in 2009 and opened in 2010. In Wesley's prayer letter sent home in April 2010, we get a sense of the work in which he was involved. Arriving in April, we immediately launched into the work of teaching the pastors in the Nepal Mission College. The college building, although not completely finished, was well suited for the classes. Teaching sessions ran from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Thursday and finishing at 12 noon on Fridays. On Friday afternoons, the men were involved in outreach work in the local area. During this first period of training, 14 men attended the course for 6 weeks. The teaching has been intensive, with 14 classes, each week covering a range of subjects: biblical doctrine, hermeneutics, homiletics, church history, missionary principles, Bible survey, worship, and an introduction to the Greek language. The Lord certainly sustained Paul and I as we lectured, and we enjoyed the initial experience. We trust that this will help in the strengthening of these men in their future ministry. A graduation service was held at the close of the term and certificates were presented to the students. The next day they set off for home, some of them having a bus journey of 16 hours to reach their villages to the west or the east of Nepal. As the work developed and more men were trained, Wesley prepared the way for the formation and constitution of the first presbytery of the Free Presbyterian Church of Nepal. Those who went out to visit Nepal in November 2013 for the ordination of 22 men for the Christian ministry, who had been trained in the Bible College, will never forget the occasion. It was a high day in the history of the Church and in all of our experiences, and one which will remain with us forever. One aspect of the work in Nepal, which was very close to Wesley and Carol's heart, was that of the Precious Children's Home, formed in 2003 by Paul and Mandira Thapa. When George and Wesley visited in November 2006, there were only 11 children living with the Thapa family. Both men saw the need for larger premises. As a result, when they came home, George and Wesley set about raising funds to build a new home for the children. As years passed and more children were taken in, a new, larger home was built, which could accommodate 60 children. Wesley had the great joy of officially opening this new home in 2018 when he visited with a group from Northern Ireland. Over the years, he was a true father figure to the children in the home.
Well, as I say, boys and girls, it's great to be here again with you. And we've said that it is a great day because we have a great God. And we certainly would dedicate this house to the Lord today, that His glory might be seen at all times. Great pleasure today to cut this ribbon to officially open the Precious Orphanage Home.
In 2015, Nepal was hit by a huge earthquake. Wesley and Carol were displaced from their home for fear of aftershocks or another earthquake. During this time, they stayed in tents with the local believers, who so lovingly cared and provided for them. During this time, an emergency appeal was launched by the Mission Board, and funds were raised to help church members rebuild homes and church buildings which had been destroyed. Tribute must be paid by the Mission Board to Rev Paul Thapa and the believers in the Nepal Free Presbyterian Church. Their love and help to Wesley and Carol made the whole venture possible. The personal relationship between Wesley and Paul, I believe, was a Jonathan and David friendship. Their mutual respect of each other, their shared ministerial vision, is an object lesson for future missionaries. Reverend Thapa, in his own personal tribute, said of Wesley, "We find that Rev Graham lived his life as he taught and preached. Preaching and living go together," he used to say. He lived a life of example, and he fought a very good fight of the faith. Now God has taken him to be with him forevermore. Though Wesley stepped down from his full-time role in Nepal in December 2016, he continued his work in an advisory role. He was in constant contact with the work in Nepal, mentoring the future development of the presbytery, liaising with the mission board, and still going back out to visit for conferences, college lectures and church openings. He was the deputation secretary for the Precious Children's Home and had a full round of deputation meetings booked for this year. I, like others, had opportunities to visit him and Carol in Nepal over the years and saw his Christ-like love and compassionate work. Carol was always by his side and could not have been a better support and encouragement to her husband. At home and abroad, they were wonderful ambassadors for the missionary cause of Christ. Carol has lost a beloved husband, their children a loving father, and their grandchildren a devoted grandfather. We who knew and loved him in the Lord have lost a faithful friend and confidant. The church in Nepal has lost a founding spiritual father, yet our lives and those of countless others are all the richer for having known Brother Wesley Graham.
But I just draw your attention to Psalm number 30. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up. Very clearly, the psalmist had been in a low place, a difficult place, but God in his mercy had lifted him onto a higher place. This psalm was written at the time that David, the king, dedicated his house unto the Lord. And we certainly would dedicate this house to the Lord today, that his glory might be seen at all times.
At his funeral service, we were reminded of his favourite psalm in Psalm 34, verse 3 to 6. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles.